So they're not going like this, right? This is so important to remember. If I'm going like this, okay, also this elbow over here, yes, all right, making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to help keep the weight, right? It's all about the weight. What's helping get the weight into the hand? Right after that fortissimo is going to be some other dynamic, some other thing that you have to do in the music, and you have to be able to change instantly, yeah? So I don't want to get locked in to this, right? I don't want my thumb slipping under, all right? This is a big no-no, all right? Big culprit for bad sound and bad bow holds. I never want this, right? Right? It's my arm weight, it's my elbow coming up, getting that weight driving into it. It's my hand being in the right position to get the weight into the bow. So I have to use the flats of my fingers, and I have to keep them rounded, okay? So that they are, holding on to the bow, but also at the same time, everything is this hybrid kind of 45-degree. We're always doing two things at once, right? We're trying to hold on, which means we have to have some force going this way. Hi, I'm Clay from thecello.online, and this video is all about the bow hold, specifically about what is exactly supple strength and holding the bow, quote unquote, gently. And this is a response to a really great question / comment I got on the channel about bow hold. And this person wrote, so how do you hold that position when you need to have more tension when you're playing? It seems like a very gentle position, if that makes sense. Yes, that does make sense, and thank you for the great comment, great question. This is why I love the word supple, right? Supple strength. When you look up the word supple, what does it mean? It means bending or flexing easily and gracefully. There's nothing in there about relaxed. There's nothing in there about gentle. It just means you can move and bend. Supple strength. So my hand is on the bow in a strong way, all right, it's there, but it is also supple, all right? It can bend and flex. We don't use that word as often. It doesn't conjure up certain images like relaxed or gentle, right? So I use that word, and I think we all should use that word a little more often when we're talking about the bow hold, supple strength. The other thing is that this is why it's so important that the hand be balanced, you get it like this, on top of the bow with these fingers, so that these fingers are counteracting each other, right? So they're not going like this, right? This is so important to remember. If I'm going like this, okay, then yes, that tension is going toward each other and nothing's going into the bow, right? And it's like, how can I keep my hand balanced and up on top of the bow like this? So I have to use the flats of my fingers, and I have to keep them rounded, okay, so that they are, holding on to the bow, but also at the same time, everything is this hybrid kind of 45-degree. We're always doing two things at once, right? We're trying to hold on, which means we have to have some force going this way. It's just basic physics, right? I have to hold on to the bow, but I also have to get weight going this way. I'm reminded of this great visual, all right, and physical example of a building that I saw in Chicago while I was on vacation with my family. This building right here that I'm going to put on the screen that looks like this at the bottom. Crazy, right? The way it bears in and has this small footprint with all of this weight up on top of it. Now, of course, with the building, there's a whole lot of steel driven into the ground, helping hold that building up. But it isn't just the stuff underneath, right? It isn't just the foundation. It's also the principle of the physics behind it, that the building is very, very well balanced. And the reason I think of that is because I'm very much reminded of our bow hold, right? And this is why it's so important that our hand be balanced, right? Whoop, trying to get the angle right there, on top of the bow. Yes, because if it's not balanced on top of the bow, these mechanisms, all right, this foundation coming into the bow hold, right, just like the building, which is just a wonderful example to look at. I have to have this, right? If I'm down like this, then what? Then it's just all like, I have no supple strength. I'm just grabbing the bow, I end up knuckling the bow, and then I can't flex my wrist, and there's all the other artistic things that go wrong if I let my hand collapse like this. This is why I'm so in favor of letting this wrist bend always, right? Not just for certain techniques, but always, always, always letting the hand be on top, all right, all right, so that if I'm partially holding this way, but then also, like I said, this always hybrid kind of 45 degrees, I'm also at the same time going into, okay, into the frog, into the stick, all right? And I can stay flexed, okay? This is also why I want to make sure my pinky is staying on the frog. I want to always, as much as possible, okay, be using all of my fingers to get the weight into the bow, all right? So it isn't just, you know, we have the bow hold. We got to make sure that our fingers are in the right spot. Also, this elbow over here, yes, all right, making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to help keep the weight, right? It's all about the weight. What's helping get the weight into the hand, okay, so that the hand and fingers are catching the weight, which we're going to talk about in a second, but that they're not doing every single thing to get the force into the bow, right? It's my arm weight, it's my elbow coming up, getting that weight driving into it. It's my hand being in the right position to get the weight into the bow. This is how I maintain, because the question here, the great comment is like, how do I maintain this when I have to have a lot of force, right? A lot of energy going into the bow. Well, I got to have all of this in the right spot. I got to let this be hanging down here. I got to make sure that I'm contacting the bow, excuse me, in the right spot, all right? Flats of my fingers always. And that is how I maintain it, all right? I got to check all these things. Now, if you're really being heavy, all right, you're really bearing down on the bow and you're being relaxed, then it's just basic physics that weight, okay, the force of all of this stuff has to go somewhere, right? You know, something has to catch it if I'm truly being relaxed. And that's when maybe we're pronating a little bit, and, you know, the index finger, all right, or the front of my hand is catching a lot of that if I'm, right, really being heavy and being fortissimo and trying to play out and play really loud and forcefully, then yes. But I don't do this. I'm still not pulling down on the bow. All right, I'm just transferring a little more of that weight with the pronation into my index finger. I still always want to try to use all my fingers, even when I'm playing fortissimo, all right? Because I want to be artistic. I don't want to just play loud. I don't want to just, you know, have just brute strength going into the string. There's usually, or not usually, there always is some musical thing that's supposed to be happening, even when it's fortissimo. Unless it really is, you know, some spot in the music, or maybe it's a more modern piece, and it's just supposed to be noise. In that case, bear down, right? Do whatever you have to, all right? But always try to use all of your fingers, because look, right after that fortissimo is going to be some other dynamic, some other thing that you have to do in the music, and you have to be able to change instantly, yeah? So I don't want to get locked in to this, right? I don't want my thumb slipping under, all right? This is big no-no, all right, big culprit for bad sound and bad bow holds. I never want this, right? I always, this is why really if I am bearing down here, it's really coming into the side of my finger, yeah? If I have to use that, if I have to really get a little extra weight in there into the bow. I'm never pulling down like this, right? It's always just a tiny little shift, and I get lots and lots of weight. And then as soon as I want to take it out, boom, you almost wouldn't notice it playing, right? It's like, this is, you know, mezzo piano, and this is fortissimo. It's a tiny little difference, yeah? Because all my fingers are staying contacted the way they're supposed to. Fortissimo, light. Fortissimo, light. And this is how I change fast. This is how I get all the colors all the things I want to do in the music and go back and forth easily and quickly. Yes, I have this checked over here, this on top, all my fingers correct. All right. I hope that answers your question. You know, it's simple and yet it's not simple. Okay, remember the other thing, as I say in the video here where the comment was, is that the biggest thing that happens with bow holds is losing them in the middle of playing, right? You got to stop, you got to check, all right? Is my hand staying balanced, all right? Like the building. Love the image of that building there in Chicago. I hope everybody has a chance to go see it one day. Take the boat architecture tour there. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, right? But staying here, these fingers counteracting each other, but at the same time going into the frog, getting the weight into the string, yeah? If you haven't seen the video that I've been referencing, I'll put a link to it right here and you can go watch it. Thanks for watching.